All right. I hope everybody had a wonderful lunch. I'm going to welcome everybody back very briefly to kick off this year's Gwen Skinner Human Rights Award presentation. This is an incredibly meaningful part of the ICAR annual meeting. It's an opportunity for us and the award committee to recognize really exemplary work that's being done by our friends and colleagues and partners in the corporate accountability and business and human rights space. This is this is always incredibly brave and meaningful work that's being done. And we like to take a moment to recognize that and to make sure that we're lifting up the incredible efforts that are going on in our community and around the world. And so in honor of Gwen Skinner, we in an effort to honor her memory, give out the Gwen Skinner Award every year. Put a finer point on it, the Gwen Skinner Human Rights Award recognizes the work of an individual organization that has made a significant contribution to corporate accountability in this past year. Gwen Skinner was a multifaceted leader who worked both as an agent of change and with agents of change. After receiving numerous strong nominations, worthy candidates pursuing incredible work, the committee has selected ProDESC and the collective, and the members of the Dindigul agreement. And I'm going to turn it over here in just a moment to Katie Gallagher, who represents the awards committee, and let her talk about the Gwen Skinner Award and their nominations.
Thank you. I think we're actually going to start with two videos. We'll start with Amol, I believe, and we'll hear more about Gwen and more about the award. So I'll turn it over to the video.
Welcome everyone to the 2022 Gwen Skinner Awards ceremony. My name is Amol Mehra, and I have the privilege of serving on the selection committee of the Gwen Skinner Human Rights Award. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Professor Gwen Skinner. Professor Skinner was a professor of law at Willamette University. She also worked with ICAR as an advisor over a period of 6 years, serving as a resource, a guide, a mentor, and deeply as a friend to me and the entire ICAR community. Her work at litigating on the front lines of corporate accountability, producing thought leadership and scholarship on issues like access to remedy, parent company accountability, and a range of other issues put her on the forefront of the business and human rights agenda. When she passed away, we as a community came together to honor her work and legacy by creating this award. The themes that she worked on are emblematic of the types of candidates that are recipients of this award each year. A selection committee came together at the beginning to start piecing through the applicants that we got for this award. I'll name those members of the committee and want to express my thanks for their continued service on behalf of ICAR and the community in the Gwen Skinner Human Rights Award. The committee includes Professor Anita Ramasastry of University of Washington School of Law, Paul Hoffman of Schonenbrunn, Seplow, Harris, Hoffman and Zeldes law firm, myself, Katie Gallagher for the Center for Constitutional Rights, Melissa Tuck at ICAR, Ari Alvarez at Nathan Cummings Foundation, and Beth Skrypzak, Gwen Skinner's wife. This award is delivered in conjunction with ICAR's annual meeting, and it's fantastic that so many of you were able to travel together to be there together in person, and many of you are joining online. and it really recognizes the work of an individual or organization that has made a significant contribution to corporate accountability this year. Our past awardees include the late Steve Heitov, who received the inaugural award in 2019. Steve was the general counsel of the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. Then in 2020, the award went to Alejandra and the organization Al-Haq. Just last year, the award went to MP Theolina Matbab and Charity Ryerson. Together, these awardees are really at the forefront of the agenda of corporate accountability, driving campaigns, driving advocacy, and some critical legal developments that are happening around the world. We'd like to honor and thank them as well for continuing to play a part. Without further ado, I'd love to pass the floor over now to my friend Beth Skrypzak, who was Gwen's wife, who's going to detail a little bit more for us about Gwen's life, her focus, and her work, and why we're excited about the awardees we'll be announcing today. Beth, over to you.
Thank you, Amol, and welcome to all of you. My name is Beth Skrypzak. I was Gwynne Skinner's wife and partner for 22 years. I hope you've had a good meeting, and thank you again for taking some moments to hear about Gwynne's life and to honor the award recipients for this year. This is the fourth year that this award has been presented, and every year as I prepare to talk about Gwynne's life, it's always pretty amazing to see all of her accomplishments. Gwynne was born and raised in Iowa. She was one of 5 children. She had Midwest values of knowing the difference between right and wrong, as well as caring for individuals and their stories. She attended college at University of Northern Iowa, and following that, worked in the political area for a number of years, but always had a passion to go to law school. She attended University of Iowa Law School and later got an LLM in International Human Rights Law from Oxford University. She was a federal prosecutor for a number of years with the Department of Labor. She moved to Seattle, Washington, and was a King County prosecutor for a number of years. Following that, she joined several corporate law firms and worked in the areas of civil litigation. She always had a passion for human rights law and established her own law firm called the Public Interest Law Group in the mid-90s and began taking on civil rights cases. During that time, she became a visiting professor at Seattle University School of Law and later was recruited and became a full professor at Willamette University School of Law in Salem, Oregon. There, she was a director of human rights and refugee law clinic. She was a consultant and mentor for ICAR for approximately 6 years before her passing in 2017. She participated with ICAR in several business and human rights meetings at the United Nations in Geneva. She published many law journal articles and reports on human trafficking and conditions at immigration detention centers in the Pacific Northwest. She wrote 2 reports on parent company liability and access to judicial remedies for human rights violations. In the last year of her life, she wrote a book called Transnational Corporations and Human Rights: Overcoming Barriers to Judicial Remedies. It was published in 2020 due to the work and final editing from Rachel Chambers and Sarah McGrath. I appreciate the work that Rachel and Sarah did to preserve Gwynne's legacy with the publication of this book. Gwynne was an expert in litigating human rights cases under the Alien Tort Statute. She took on many important cases during her career, including Corey v. Caterpillar, and she also took on 2 cases of wrongfully detained Guantanamo detainees and achieve their releases. She helped many achieve asylum in the United States who were victims of international human rights atrocities in other nations. She did all of this along with being a mother to 2 daughters, a devoted wife, sister, and friend to many. On her gravestone, not only did she want it to be recorded that she was a mother, a wife, a sister, and a friend, but very much so she wanted there to say that she was also a human rights advocate. And if you're ever in Portland and want to track that down, you'll see on her gravestone, it actually says that she was a human rights advocate, and that really was her life calling and dedicated her whole career to that. Gwynne would applaud the work of the winners of this year's award. The Dindigul agreement, that was a landmark agreement established in April, where corporations were being held accountable to workers in their supply chain. She would be very proud of the agreement getting passed. Most of these workers were low-income young women in southern India that were subjected to gender-based violence. This work very much resonates with Gwynne's career, using innovative legal work and theory to help women subjected to corporate violations. Gwynne also would have appreciated how the ProDESC advocated for the indigenous people in the Unión Hidalgo for their human rights when corporations were committing violations to their land. I know Katie will further discuss why the committee chose these recipients, and I will defer that to her. Myself and Gwynne's family, again this year, want to thank ICAR and the committee for honoring Gwynne's lifetime work with this award and preserving her memory. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to Katie.
We're very, very lucky, I think, to hear from both Amol and Beth. Is it on? Do that. We're very, very lucky to hear from both Amol and Beth and to get some understanding of really the why behind the Gwynne Skinner Award and the who. Gwynne, the inspiration for going through this process each year, and taking this moment in the ICAR annual meeting to really recognize and honor the incredible work that's being done. I have the privilege once again on behalf of the selection committee to introduce our winners. And first, we wanted to really thank all of you, the larger ICAR community and the larger business and human rights community, for putting forward 11 really strong individual and organizational nominees. Sitting and going through the nominations is challenging, but it's also an incredibly inspiring moment where we can really see the way that corporations and their supply chains are being held to account, or corporate-backed environmental injustice and racism is being confronted head-on from the ground up, or the way that corporations who are aiding and abetting war crimes or crimes against humanity are increasingly being brought to court and held to account, and the way that victims are getting real accountability and real redress. So it's, again, a privilege to be on this committee. While the nominees reveal the myriad ways that corporations contribute to the denial of basic economic, social, cultural, civil, and political rights of some of the most vulnerable communities around the world, they also speak to the creativity, the resilience, the solidarity, and the deep humanity that is reflected in the business and human rights community. So really, we want to recognize all 11 nominees and all of you for being here and continuing to do the work. So thank you. And now we'll move on to the winners. I would like to first introduce ProDESC and the Collective of Land Defenders of Unión Hidalgo. ProDESC, as we all know them, the Protection of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, was founded in 2005 with a mission to defend groups in Mexico unable to fully enjoy their ESCR rights. Since 2013, ProDESC has been supporting a group of human rights defenders from the indigenous and agrarian communities in Oaxaca, Mexico. These are the communities of Unión, Hidalgo. They have been challenging wind parks that have been put on indigenous land and farmland without consultation, under lease agreements that did not have informed consent. And through the partnership of ProDESC and the Unión Hidalgo, they have actually managed to get some of these leaseholds, these landholds annulled. And we'll hear more about that from Alejandra. For us in the selection committee, part of why this project spoke to us was in this moment where we are talking rightly about the climate crisis and the need for corporations in their contributions to the climate crisis to be held to account as we turn from fossil fuels to renewables. We still have to keep our human rights hats on and our eyes open. And that's what this project and this victory really, really represents. So without further delay, Alejandra from ProDESC, can you come up, please, so we can award you as co-winner of the 2022 Gwynne Skinner Award. You can do it. So now yes.
Well, as you know, English is not my first language, so I will read something that I was able to write with my team, that are part of my team are here with me to receive this very great honor for us as an organization. As Kathy said, my name is Alejandra Ancheita. I am the founder and executive director of ProDESC. And I would like to first to thank ICAR and the selection committee for awarding ProDESC and the collective in defense of human rights and communal lands on Unión Hidalgo with the Gwynne Skinner Award. Sadly, visa issues made it impossible to have representatives from the collective today in Washington, D.C. It is known to everyone in this room that corporations are violating human rights, and those who feel the worst impacts are located in the global south. Indigenous communities in particular face enormous stakeholders who want to take their land, territory, and natural resources. Corporations know that they will be rarely held accountable to their actions because there is a huge imbalance of power between these corporations and indigenous communities. When corporations are not held accountable, they have more incentives to violate human rights in the future. However, a community in southern Mexico managed to hold one of the largest energy producers in Europe accountable. This community is the community of Unión Hidalgo, Mexico. Unión Hidalgo is located in the Istmo of Tehuantepec, and its geographical position is ideal for the generation of wind energy. The Istmos happens to be home to several indigenous peoples, for which the Mexican laws establish protections and specific human rights, such as the right to free, prior, and informed consent. However, when Électricité de France announced the construction of what would have been the largest wind park of Latin America in the territory of Unión Hidalgo, without their consent and without considering the negative impacts it will have on the community, a group of local courageous human rights defenders and ProDESC decided to take action. We managed to stop the construction of the wind park before it had even begun. Therefore, preventive irreparable damage to the community. However, the permits and contracts were still in place, and there was a real possibility that the corporation would illegally start the construction of the wind park. We knew that if we were going to defend the land and the territory of the community, we will have to use every tool available. What followed were 6 years of engaging with stakeholders, creating communication campaigns by ourselves and with allies in Europe, strengthening capacities of human rights defenders, and doing strategic litigation. Among them, the representation of the first case of an indigenous community in the American continent using the French corporate duty of vigilance law alongside our allied, the German organization, the European Center for Constitutional and Human Rights. Through the whole process, human rights defenders from the community resisted, defended what was theirs, and never lost hope. This year, after sustained pressures to the Mexican government, the project was definitively canceled by the Mexican Commission of Electricity. And then, a few months later, a judge recognized that all the lands from Unión Hidalgo are a collective property, therefore rendering null and void leasing contracts signed by corporations who have wind parks in the region, including Électricité de France. We believe that corporate accountability is needed now more than ever. However, the input from communities and organizations from the Global South is paramount. In this, I think we agree with the other Winner Skinner Award recipient, the labor stakeholders, to the Dindigul agreement, to which we also extend our biggest congratulations. As ProDESC, we are honored to receive this award and to be a part of Professor Skinner's enduring legacy of business accountability. In light of hardships and structural challenges, knowing that almost everything is against us, I often find myself thinking about Angela Davis, which say that it is in collectivities that we find reservoirs of hope and optimism. And that is what we ultimately want to accomplish as ProDESC, building spaces of hope for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Alejandra. And I will now announce our second winner, our co-winner in the 2022 Gwynne Skinner Award. And it is really reflecting very much what you ended with, Alejandra, and that is the building of collective power to effect change that really impacts individual dignity and individual rights for a larger collective community. And so our second awardee is the labor stakeholders in the Dindigul agreement in Tamil Nadu in India. And this is comprised, the stakeholders are comprised of 3 groups: the Tamil Nadu Textile and Common Labor Union, the Asia Floor Wage Alliance, and the Global Labor Justice International Labor Rights Forum. These organizations working together achieved the landmark Dindigul Agreement in April of this year. This agreement empowers women workers in the garment industry supply chains to negotiate power, to build power, and make changes in their workplaces, and then using the agreement to modify an import ban that they had also achieved under Section 307 of the tariff agreement. We as the committee saw the agreement and the work to achieve it as an innovative collaboration across borders and across expertise to build accountability and to serve as a national and international model for how groups could work together. We also saw that they were able to effect change up and down the supply chain by working as garment workers together to unionize and work on the ground. They then pressed up to the suppliers, to the fashion industry, and reaching out further through US and regional allies to use government tools such as the Tariff Act to really force change. They had achieved the withhold release order and then ultimately decided when it was time to have that lifted when their conditions of labor had changed. So without saying much more again, let me introduce please JJ Rosenbaum, who's the executive director of GLJ-ILRF. I messed the Exactly.
Yes, so we'll do the videos. You want to introduce them?
Sure. Is it on? As with Unión Hidalgo, it was very difficult for our partners to be here today. So we have short video recorded messages of thanks and appreciation from the Tamil Nadu Textile and Common Worker Union and the Asia Floor Wage Alliance.
Wishes to dear sisters, brothers and friends who are gathered here tonight. We, the Tamil Nadu Textile and Common Labor Union, receive this honor with utmost gratitude and humility. We thank ICAR and the award committee for choosing us for this award. As we receive the award, we remember the labor and sacrifice of hundreds of garment workers in Tamil Nadu whose fight for justice, dignity and equality paved the way for the Dindigul agreement. This award is a symbol of our collective aspiration that the quiet acts of courage and compassion of a few poorly paid unionized working class Dalit garment workers has the potential to bend history in the direction of justice, advancing decent work and the basic rights of thousands of working people. We hope that Jayastri's death was not in vain and that the Dindigul agreement brings in a new era of progress and hope marked by much needed social transformation in global garment supply chains. We reaffirm our audacity to believe that garment workers everywhere can have workspaces where they receive living wages, are free from gender and caste-based oppression, and have the freedom to nurture their spirits. We hope that all those who have got together here today continue to be with us in our struggles to make dignity, our justice, and a reality in every home and workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, ICAR, for this award. The Dindigul Agreement is not just a victory for Tamil Nadu, but it's a victory for the Asian garment labor movement. It shows that transformation, social justice, and progress are possible even in the harshest of conditions. It shows that worker organizing and solidarity not only has the potential to change workplaces, but also homes and communities, addressing issues of gender, caste, migrant rights, and sexuality. More importantly, the Justice for Jayashree campaign and the Dindigul agreement show that even in the face of deepening inequalities and structural discrimination, Hope and radical change is possible when workers and citizens build alliances beyond borders, reimagining workplace and societies. Today, we receive this award on behalf of the Asian Garment Labor Movement, and we believe it is a profound recognition of the efforts of the thousands of feminist and women's rights defenders like Jayashree, many of whom have lost their life trying to create a better world for all of us. This award is a note of hope and inspiration for the millions of Asian garment workers and their unions, that their struggle for decent work, living wages, and a violence-free workplace are being heard and seen by people around the world. Thank you once again, ICAR and the award committee for this honor.
Formally.
I know it was also a lot of words and names to fit on a small plaque. I wanted to thank ICAR and really to thank Gwynne's wife and kids and family. And I knew Gwynne when I came to ICAR. I met her and she welcomed me into this field. And I hope that her family sees what all of us here and feels proud of her legacy really continuing. And it's a huge honor for us to accept this award alongside ProDESC and Unión Hidalgo. This is work that we have learned from, been inspired by, fangirled about all of the things. And it really is the kind of movement we want to be a part of in all of our spaces. You know, I wanted to just say, because I am the US person who has the privilege to be here in DC, that I think both awards really model the layers and linkages of movements and organizations that we need to win. They model the way all the issues are connected together. We're not having a slap retaliation fight over here and a fight about winning, you know, a new vision over here. It's interconnected, but we also have to know the roles that we play and build partnerships of trust where we can do that over many, many years. I know the Unión Hidalgo work actually, you know, the roots of that work are 10 years and 20, there's as old as ProDESC and before they are. And similarly, the work that led to the ability to have this victory in the Dindigul agreement is work that is, you know, started when Asian unionists sat together and said, we'll have a Southern-led organization of garment worker unions that can fight capital moving across border. We will link arms across border. We will develop a feminist living wage, and we will envision in 20 years being able to bargain with corporations, including now Gap, which has signed the agreement, and it's the first binding agreement that the Gap has signed along with PVH and H&M. And I just wanted to say, you know, in the way we work together, we know that it is TTCU that will know what is happening in the factories in Tamil Nadu, will fight those day-to-day battles. And Tivia who spoke, she's the one that will do that, whether it's behind the bus station when the mid-level managers won't even meet with her, you know, about what's going on in the factory, or it's at the table with the cake. I think we've shared that photo, you know, or it's hopefully in Geneva and DC and in these places when we're able to travel more. You know, and that's why we have built into this agreement a 20-to-1 shop floor monitoring program. This is a power-based agreement in addition to a law and rights-based agreement. And from the Eastman agreement will go in many directions in Tamil Nadu. We also know that it's the Asia Floor Wage Alliance that built itself and then built the Women's Leadership Committee throughout it, so that women trade union leaders, many of them garment workers themselves, and many of them were unionists who left their traditional trade unions because of sexual harassment in the union to form their own unions so that they could have a space. And so when we're bargaining about gender-based violence and harassment, they are at the front of that bargaining, even within their own union context, and they will continue to be. And then we know that, and they have developed the Safe Circles organizing theory of how you move from a position of extreme gender-based violence and harassment to real power in the workplace. And it's, you know, organizations like Global Labor Justice, ILRF, that are also needed when the US government says, actually, despite all of this beauty and vision and joy, we will disallow the imports coming under this agreement into the United States which would put 10,000 women out of work because based on the evidence that they themselves created as part of a demand for a better world. We need organizations like ours who can come to DC, be in DC, and take all of that. That work required looking at the 5 grievances filed by the Tamil Nadu Textile and Common Worker Union and explaining to the US Department of Homeland Security all the way to the top why that is unionism, why that is what freedom in the workplace looks like, and why the US state must honor that. And that if we're talking about worker-driven trade, then we must, worker-centered trade, that means do workers in other countries have freedom of association, have workplace organization, and have the ability to define democracy in their countries as they see it. So I really want to just say again that I thank ICAR very much for this opportunity to celebrate wins. We have to celebrate the small and big ones as we go. These are pretty big ones, I think, but they had a lot of small ones along the way. We have to honor those that we've lost along the struggle, and that includes our sister Gwen. It also includes Jayashree Katraville, the young woman whose murder by her supervisor catalyzed this phase of the work and led to the Dindigul agreement. She and her mother were both union members and fought the first time. The first stage of the fight was when 35 men from the company came to her at their house at night, and only the women of the union stood with them to prevent the forcible signing of a waiver of agreements. That was the beginning. And also just want to honor James Victor, who was another one of the key founders of TTCU, who was lost in the recent COVID times. And then just say really that to appreciate that we've learned from these collaborations and community, like the duration that it takes to build real decent work, real development, and real democracy. This is what the work looks like. Alejandra and I are lucky enough to be here with you, but you see and you know all of the people around it that really are making it happen. And we appreciate and thank all of you that have played all little small roles and big ones all along the way. Thank you.
Well, that concludes this year's Gwynne Skinner Award. These are incredible examples of significant contributions in the business human rights and corporate accountability space. And as JJ said, and as Alejandra said, like this is not work that's easy. This is not work that's often front and center in headlines or in big making a big political push. This is the daily grind of organizing and advocacy and suffering through the losses and having a vision for the future. And it's an incredible example of what you can do when you come together with an idea of building a more just and vibrant future that's led by communities and led by workers and led by those who are closest to the ground and who know what solutions they need, and then harness power to get that done so that they can create the world and the community that they want to live in. And I think that those are incredible victories worth celebrating. And we're so honored to be able to present both of you and your colleagues who couldn't be with us in person with the Gwynne Skinner Human Rights Award. It's a wonderful tribute to her memory. Thank you both.